It's just going to be us on audio. And we're going to put this on both podcasts with me. And depending how you look at it, with me is the Michelle Weinstein from The Abundant Accountant. Or you can look at it as with Michelle Weinstein, The Abundant Accountant.
Eric Green.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So Eric, just because your audience and your people don't know who you are already, why don't you share with all the Abundant Accountant listeners who you are and what you do?
Right. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, I am Eric Green. I'm a tax attorney with a firm called Green and Sklar's, but I started a number of years ago, the Tax Rep Network, which is a coaching program for tax practitioners who really want to build a representation practice. And I have the weekly Tax Rep Network podcast.
Awesome. And he's a genius.
And for my audience, Michelle, who have not listened to you the first 3 times you've been on, why don't you tell my audience who you are?
I am Michelle. I have a company called The Abundant Accountant, and I help you get really, really, really wealthy and be appreciated by your clients. So you get paid up front. You never have to discount your fees. You never have to justify your prices. So you can actually enjoy the work that you do and not have to work with too many people, but just work with the clients that you actually love and want to work with. So that's what I do. And I'm very excited for today's conversation, Eric, because I am so eager to know that this is now our 4th podcast together. And I'd love to know how much wealthier you are because of what you've implemented that I've suggested. And now what your new base fees are for an offer and compromise as well.
For those of you who've been listening, we have our minimum retainer is $5,000. And
wow,
we generally charge $1,500 for a consult. And I have to tell you that we have had very few turn us down. In fact, I'm trying to remember. I can only think of one offhand that's turned us down. But usually, if they turn us down, if you press them a little bit, what you realize is they don't really owe very much, and they would never have been good fits for the firm anyway. But generally speaking, they pay it, and the reason they pay it is. Look, and what my assistant will tell them is, look, we charge $1,500 to do the workup. Based on that, we'll know if we can do an offer and compromise, if we can do what an installment agreement would look like, if you're uncollectible, whatever. And if we do decide to go forward with an offer, that $5,000 fee is reduced by the $1,500 because we've already done a lot of the work. And I think once you explain that, what they realize is, hey, wait a minute. I can only put $1,500 down. I'm going to have a good idea what we're doing, and that counts toward the $5,000. Sign me up. Versus they pay $6,000 to one of those, one of those companies on satellite radio to be told that they can't do anything. I had one of these yesterday. The husband paid $6,000, and the company came back and said, "No, we can't help you." And took the $6,000. So
that's horrible.
I know. It is. And so that's where we are. And if you want to go back and listen to the episodes with Michelle, you'll hear her and I going back and forth about, I used to be at $500. And then we went to, it wasn't $1,000, it was like $995.
$995.
Right. Yeah. And then we went to $1,500. And that's where we are now. Although I will tell you, we have pushed a few people into the 2,000 range. That's where we're getting a lot of pushback. So, but no, and knowing that I have 23 people to keep busy, I as much as I want to always maximize what I'm worth, I also need to keep everyone here busy. But no, absolutely. And I'm very excited about today too, because there are a lot of listeners who don't know the difference between sales and marketing. Yeah. And when this issue came up, I said, well, there's only one person I need to get to talk about this. and that's Michelle. And so hence why we're dragging you back, because I'd love to see, your thoughts on this and dive into this a little bit as far as What is the difference really between sales and marketing?
Yeah, and I'm very excited to talk about this because I've had a few of your tax rep network, members reach out, and the biggest thing that I hear from all of them is, Michelle, I just need more leads. I need more leads, and what we realize after talking for about an hour is that we think it's a lead problem, and what a lead, the definition is when someone calls you and asks you, how much do you charge? I'm interested. I heard about you through Bob or whatever it is. That would be a lead. So that's the contact of the person that's reaching out to you for help. And that lead came from what I call marketing efforts. And a marketing effort is basically, how do you generate the interest from somebody to pick up the phone and call you or email you or contact you through the website, whatever it may be? So it's like, how do you get the quote unquote like business activity generated interest to work with you? The sale is the transaction between you and your prospect, meaning they pay you. It's an exchange of money. The sale is also what I consider conversion. So, Eric, I have the best example for you. Okay. It was one of your members. We're, for the sake of this discussion, going to call him Bob. Okay. I'm not going to give out any real names.
Okay.
Bob is in a job, and Bob wants to get his firm really going really, really well. And he booked a phone call with me to talk about, whatever it was that he wanted to get behind the curtain on. And what he realized was that he sent out, or he got about 100 leads, is what we calculated in the 2 to 3 years he's been attempting to get this firm off the ground, because he really wants to quit his job. But he only has 11 clients. He's only had 11. So he had 100 leads. The emails that he had are considered leads. However, he only had 10 transactions, which means sales, with that top thing on your P&L statement. It's either going to say total revenue or total sales, depending on how you categorize it. And I said, wow, Bob, it really sounds like you don't have a lead problem. We just figured out that you've had 100 people contact you over the last few years, and you only got 10 to pay you. So you only were able to help 10 out of 100, which means you have 90 other people that might be having their wages garnished. They might have a lien on something, right? They might have all those things that you all help your clients with. And that is what we're going to talk about today, because that's the big misunderstanding. I get so many of you contacting me, Michelle, I just need more leads. I need more leads. And I go, that's not a sales problem. That's actually a marketing problem. But if you can't convert, which is what happened to Bob, he has no process or plan for conversion. He just shows up, and I don't even know what he does. We didn't even get that far. But my point is that he had 90 other opportunities from his marketing efforts or his referral efforts or from a Google ad effort, whatever that advertising piece was that generated the interest in his services. And what I said is, you actually don't have a lead problem. You have 90 people you could reach back out to and help if you had a sales process and a process on how to communicate with them in order to help them get out of the pain that they're in. If someone's having money sucked out of their bank account or getting sucked out of their checks, that must really suck. That cannot be a good thing, right?
Well, I think a lot of people don't track this. I mean,
that's a good point.
Yeah, well, for us, I mean, we track every, the app that I developed was partly what I focused on is that drip campaign to close people afterward, because what I've found is generating in our niche, generating leads is not difficult. Now, the closing can be, but I have to tell you, as I was explaining before, the 1,500 versus 5,000, we close almost everybody, which are the sales, right? So the marketing is when Eric goes out, blah, 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 at the conference or the blogging that I do or the newsletter I put out or whatever. That's your marketing. And it's, I think a lot of people don't consider how many leads have come in versus how many have I closed, because I think that's fascinating. They're it's almost like they're going to play a numbers game of if I can close 10%, if I can get 1,000 leads, instead of focusing on why am I only closing 10%.
Exactly. And some of you spend money on marketing. Like, I don't know who it was. I think it was another person, yours, Eric, I talked to. Yep. And, they're doing advertising. And we got down to the bottom of it and realized that this person also had about 200 opportunities that weren't tracked, missed out on, or whatever. And I said, you might want to shut down the advertising stuff. That's a waste of money right now. And what really is the challenge is how do you get, for the example with Bob, how do you get another 90 of those people that you didn't help out? How do you email them, call them, text them, meet with them, and see how you can help 10 to 20 more of those people? Because I bet not much has changed. If anything, it got worse in their world. Most people that don't enroll with you, and this is really crucial to understand, because it's the same thing when you all contact me. If we don't end up working together, typically your situation doesn't change a whole lot when we talk again in 6 to 12 months. And the same goes for your clients. If they're in deep water with the IRS, or they owe a lot of money and, the wages are being garnished, and Eric, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. I'm going to guess that if you talk to them in 6 months to a year or 12, 18 months, 24 months later, if they're not in jail yet, their situation didn't get better all by itself. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes. And okay. There's an old saying that change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes worse than the pain of change. And yes. It's what ultimately happens is, for my clients, they're kind of, what happens is the IRS will go quiet. And so they're like, ooh, maybe they'll go away. Yeah, which they don't. They're gone. But yeah. Right. And so they immediately, and I'll tell you what's amazing. And this is partly why, how do you build $1 million rep practice? I got to tell you, one of the biggest changes ever when I realized I had to take money up front for the consult. Because if you don't, you're going to spend an awful lot of your time doing free consults all day with people who are not invested in the process. Yep. And the one thing is, I think the first year I tracked it, I realized I was getting $500 consults a month, which for me at that point, that was an extra $30,000 that I had been giving away
for free
prior. And now, I have to tell you the truth. We don't need leads. Like the phone rings here off the hook, but
tracking them is imperative, because you could also, Eric, become an advertising agency for your membership.
Well, I have to tell you,
too many leads, you could pass them on to the members, and then they could service them.
That's exactly what we're doing. More and more, what's happening is because of my speaking, I get calls from all over the country. Yeah. And what we sort of decided internally is we can't handle this. It makes sense to hand it off to the members. And if I can spread the wealth, why wouldn't I? And so that's exactly what we're doing. Cases that come in, if we have a member in their area, send it to the member. Even if we don't, if it's the kind of thing I know I have members that can handle, I'll give them 1 or 2 members' names and info and let them call them. But It's the one of the critical things, if you're listening to this, is the people that you don't take, you need to track that, or the people that don't close with you, you need to track that.
100%. That's step one.
Well, and what we're doing, just as so practically, okay, Eric, how do you track it? Like, do you have like an elf that lives under your desk that tracks this? No, what we do is when you call, we don't tell you yes or no. My assistant will take the information on our intake sheet, which gets circulated, which means at the end of the month, we took on 18 new clients, but we have 30 intake sheets. Here are the 12 we didn't take, and here's what happened. They didn't sign up. We sent them somewhere else. It was too small, blah, blah, blah. Or sometimes people call us and it's something we don't do, right? I mean, that we do get those. But because we do every single intake, which is not, by the way, just you're listening, that's not like a consult. It's a 5-minute conversation with my assistant who has a form that says, I'll take the information and we'll get back to you if it's something we can do. If it's not, we'll give you some names of people that we think can help you. And, we take their information. What is it? Federal, state, or both? Is it an audit, collection matter, criminal investigation, whatever? Roughly what dollars are we talking about? And that gets circulated. But what it does is it enables us to see everything that comes in, so we have data to look at. How are we doing? What is happening? Who do we not close? What do we think happened there? So you need the information, and a simple way to do it would be to capture all of your leads so that later you can sit down and say, all right, who did I close and who did I not?
And if you don't have a system or an assistant, just open up a spreadsheet. Google Sheets or Excel work wonders. This doesn't take much effort. You don't need any beautiful system. So I told Bob to go make a spreadsheet of the 90 people, Eric, that he did not contact, and I said, you don't have a lead problem. You don't have a marketing problem right now. Because here's the other major thing for number 2. Add up how much money you've spent on Google ads or Facebook ads or any form of advertising that you've done. And see if your conversions and your return on that investment of that money is paying off. Because that's the other thing, Eric, I see. No one tracks that either. Right?
How much is it costing you to get each one of these leads? How much is it costing you to get each client?
Exactly. So it's your customer acquisition cost is the CAC, customer acquisition cost. And then you also have the cost to get that person to talk to you, to reach out. So again, the marketing effort is where we are generating prospects. We're generating people interested who need, for all of you, or if you're listening, the Abundant Accountant podcast, for all those tax resolution experts listening, that's for you. That is how do I get the prospect interested? Now, when they become a customer, a client, they pay. There is a financial transaction that happens, and that is the sales piece. However, there's a little middle ground, and I call this the wobble area. And this is where I think most everyone listening has a difficult time. Well, Michelle, how do I get those 90 people to say, yes, I need your help? What do I say in order to get my new client? And the client meaning they've paid you. And that's where the challenge lies. And that's where sales process is important, not winging your conversations, not going off the seat of your pants and just thinking whatever you say, is going to work. Or I think a lot of people's strategies is, Eric, like you just said, let me do these consults for free and see how many new clients I can get. And then you've done 30 consults and you're like, I have no money to show for this. I have no revenue to show for this. And now they don't even want my service because most people don't value something that's free. And some of you might be arguing because you're like, well, Michelle, you and I had a phone call. I understand. That's a little different because I have that in my marketing plan. I build that in. I am here to help and serve you and get behind the curtain of what is not working. I'm going to be a mirror and ask you questions that you've never even thought about in your firm before. And I am willing to give 1 hour of my time because I value myself at like 1,000 an hour sometimes more now. And I say, okay, well, if I talk to you, I'm giving you not only my time, but that's part of my marketing efforts. I'm building that in.
And honestly, it does depend on the service.
It does depend on the service.
For instance, with the estate planning, and I don't really do much estate planning anymore, but I do have existing estate planning clients, and we have an estate planning practice at the firm. Mm-hmm. For those clients who call up for estate planning, I historically would always give them a half hour because it's really a relationship.
It is.
They're shopping.
Yeah.
When it comes to IRS stuff, it's very transactional. They're here for their problem and then they're gone. And
and that's the same for my business. It's very relationship built. If we're going to work together, we're going to be together for like a good 2 months, 2.5 months, if not longer. Some of my clients have been around 3-4 years now. But it's a relationship, and I'm willing to invest that hour to see if we're the right fit to work together and if I can help you. And I think that's really what it comes down to on what you're saying, Eric, is that the tax resolution might be more of a transactional thing where you can charge for that consultation up front. And
I can tell you, if you don't, you're going to spend a lot of time giving away free information.
Right. And you don't want to do that because free information doesn't get them anywhere and you anywhere. And those people who need tax resolution, they're already not really following the law or rules, correct?
Right.
So, for the most part.
For the most part.
So we don't want to incentivize, oh, hey, yeah, you don't have to pay me anything, keep going. It's like a ticket. If you don't get your car registered, they're going to give you a ticket. It's like if you don't follow the rules or you don't pay your taxes or you don't do something and you try to hide from the IRS, you're going to have to pay a premium to get out of it.
Right.
We can't reward poor behavior with something free. They're never going to change. So the marketing efforts, I want to give a few examples. So you all can understand really getting to the difference. Should we go through some examples, Eric, of like some of your marketing efforts? And I'll share some of mine. And then I'll share some, that you might find on Google, something pretty general. What are some of your marketing efforts? And if I hear a sales effort, am I allowed to tell you that I don't think that's a marketing effort?
Sure. You can tell me anything you want.
All right.
Yeah. No, for me, the marketing effort, I think, is, let's put it this way. To my mind, the marketing effort is where I'm, for lack of a better term, spewing information into the nether. So my talks to large groups, my blog, it's not directed at any particular individual. It becomes a sale, or my sales effort takes over once there's a connection, once there's a human that comes up to me at the end of the talk that says, I have a client that I need to talk to you about. Or the person who emails me from the blog and says, can I set up a time to call you? That's when I believe you shift from marketing over to sales, because now I'm working to close them, right? To get the retainer, to get the consult fee, whatever.
Yeah, that's all a money exchange. So anytime there's a currency exchange of something of value, so in the United States, we're talking about $1. So once the dollars hit your bank account, or you are, hey, here's the invoice for my my consult that's $1,500 or $2,000. How would you like to pay? Credit card, ACH, which is best, and they give it to you. That is now the sales efforts. But like you said, your talks from the stage is a marketing effort. Our podcast today is a marketing effort. Let's say some of you are doing direct mail or sending mailers out to people. That is a marketing effort. If you're posting on social media, that is a marketing effort. If you're doing any digital marketing, so that would be Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, any of that, that would be a marketing advertising effort. Now, like Eric just said, the second that you get the phone call or that you have someone come up to you at an in-person event and start talking to you because they have a client they need help with, that shifts immediately into the sales effort. That's where it becomes the enrollment process, is what I call it. Some of you might use the word convince. I don't like that word, and I don't think you need to convince anybody. If they're in deep waters with the IRS, it's pretty clear that they've got to do something. But when we enroll them into hiring you and your firm, that becomes the sales effort. And that requires a relationship of some sort. That requires some interpersonal interactions. It requires some maybe persuasion on why you're a little unique and different from somebody else. It might require that, you're a tax attorney, you're an EA, you've been doing this for a few years. You have what's that service where you can see what's going on with the IRS before someone like me gets a letter?
Oh, like reviewing transcripts.
Yeah, you can review the transcripts. You can see all these things and be unique and different and say, "Oh, yes, I want you to help me." And how do we start? That is the sales conversation. But the leads, where you're getting them from a podcast or Eric's speaking events, that is your marketing efforts. So that's the main differences between, what is sales and what is marketing. And when we think there's a sales problem, it's not the leads. I would say out of every single person I've ever spoke to that told me they had a lead problem, we uncovered that they had zero lead problem. We had a conversion problem. And a conversion is if you, Eric, talk to the person at the back of the room about their client that needs help on a case, and you have a great conversation and you tell them it's a $5,000 engagement and they say they're going to get back to you and you never hear from them and your conversion is zero on that, that's the challenge. It's how do we enroll people to end up working with you and to see the value in you and to pay you the price where they see the value, so you don't have to discount your fees or justify them.
Right. No, I have to tell you what's interesting is because now with I have the benefit of being able to see members in all the different sort of where they are in the life cycle of their business. So we have people that just got their EA and they're starting and they're going through the training, and I'm doing a lot of technical answering questions. And then we have people that have sort of, they're like, hey, how do I get more leads? How do I close people, whatever. And then I have people, many of them are my platinum members. Our platinum level, Michelle, it's not really a level of membership. They don't have any access to anything differently. It's the mastermind group, right, where we do a lot more interactive live. We keep it to 10 people or less because it's fairly intensive. But these are people who have hit a certain level and are now trying to take their practice to the next level. And I have to tell you, it's virtually never a lead issue, and it's not a sales issue. No, really, what I find fascinating is they, like me, they don't have a problem generating leads or closing people. Their problem is more processes. They can't manage the flow. I'll give you an example. We had one of our platinum members who she does a lot of radio ads in her area, which is something I don't do. But, and I thought she was asking me about how should she do radio. This is something she does. They were not set up to handle the amount of calls that came in. So what she ended up doing is generating a massive number of leads that they literally could not get back to. And one of the lessons I think the mastermind group got out of that is you really need to set up a foundation. What did you call him? Bob, whoever it was
Bob,
who
with
closed
the 90.
10 of the 100.
Correct.
Why didn't he close the 90? Did he not get back to them? If not, why could he not get back to them? One of the things, I think one of the things that I have noticed with the accounting audience is, what's happening is, right, people are starting out. This middle group, what I find fascinating is, so they've been doing, cheap 1040s and some small businesses.
Yeah.
And now they start getting this work. And what they'll call them, they'll say, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I don't know what to, I don't know. Well, what do you want to do? Well, gee, I'd like to make more money per hour. And I'd like to do what you do. I'd like to do just the resolution work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, get rid of the 1040s. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I said, so here's what you do. You go back and I want you to come back to me in a week. What is the average that you're making on a 1040? And they'll come back and tell me $200, $235. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, you're cheaper than H&R Block. No one should be cheaper than H&R Block. And so what I told this person, and this is my thing, if you're listening to this, we're going to be facing another tax season in 3 months. And if the sound of that, if you dread the sound of that, if you dread the onslaught of tax season, but I will tell you, there are some accountants that love it, right? No better time of year to make money, right? It's making rain. But if the thought of tax season makes you want to cry, here's what you do. First of all, rank all of your clients, right? The D's and the F's, just fire them. Just get rid of them. Just send them a letter. We're simply too busy. We will not be able to do your return anymore. We just to give you an FYI, we're not holding any of your records or enclose our copies of the original records we're holding. Or here are your original records, and we wish you the best of luck. And if that you find that offensive, why? It's your business. You work with who you want. You don't have just because I decide to walk in to your accounting office doesn't mean you have to take me. All right. And we get that. I'll get calls from people like, well, if I'm going to be your client, who says you're my client? I'm not saying I didn't. And I'll tell people, this is what happens when you get, when you turn 50 and become crotchety is actually,
crotchety?
Honestly,
what's that mean?
It's a side benefit of success is I've discovered I don't need to work with everybody.
Oh,
if I don't want to work with you, I'm not going to work with you. And so what I'll tell the client is, one is I haven't chosen to take you on as a client yet. I pick my clients. They don't pick me.
Yep.
All right. A. B. All right. And by the way, just for saying that, your fee's going up. But what I would do is the other people, they're all going up $50 this year. And the members will say, I'll lose clients. Good. Make more, do less. All right. If you want to know how to do what you want, you don't have to get rid of your 1040 business, but you've got to get it under control. You need to get paid what you want to get paid, right? What you're worth, and get rid of the people you don't want to work with.
Yeah. And it kind of brings me to this third and very special marketing effort that I have found most of every single accounting firm owner typically leaves $5,000 to $15,000 minimum every single year or month, depending on the firm revenue you're at right now. And Eric, I think you're going to really like this one because some people think that a marketing tactic to get a new client is to heavily discount your fees almost to the cost of your time or whatever to your current clients. And then you think that in the future, you're going to eventually be able to upgrade them to your non-discounted or higher dollar services. And is it possible? It is. But it is absolutely the worst strategy you could ever do to get a new client. Yep. And your convert, because I also met this other gentleman I can't remember, Eric, if I met him through you, but we'll call him Jack. And Jack, I said, this is the question. What have you tried around your sales that hasn't worked? What have you tried to do to increase your sales but hasn't worked? That was the question. And Jack said, well, Michelle, I justify my fees. I cringe when I have to share the price. I then discount my fees just to get the client. And it works because I have 100% close rate. And now I'm exhausted. I'm depleted. I'm at capacity. I don't know what to do. And this way of, getting new clients, especially on tax resolution, is probably the quickest way to, put yourself up against a brick wall, start beating your head on it and going, what the heck did I just get myself into? Because to upgrade them and to do work for high dollar services, once you've started that way, is the worst strategy to retain any clients. Now, Jack was successful in raising his fees by 3 times. And I'm sure, Eric did it too. Eric started at $500 for a consult and now is at $1,500. Some are at $2,000. So it's possible. But you can't just think that I'm going to squeeze bigger and better, discounts or whatever the heck you're thinking to just get a new client. Well, it is the most outdated marketing effort I have ever seen. And like you said, Eric, you don't need all the clients. You just need the right
And
ones.
here's the thing. There, and especially this is especially in my world, but I think it's the same in the tax preparation business too. People think, well, my clients are small clients. Let me explain something to you. Small unsophisticated clients are the worst. They're the worst cases. They're the most difficult cases because I would rather have somebody who comes in, they owe tons of money, over $1 million. They were a successful entrepreneur. Things happened. But I'm dealing with somebody who's generally educated, pretty sophisticated, and can get me what he needs, and we can work together. Mm-hmm. The people that come in who can't get their records together and they're a mess and they're broken, whatever. These are not good cases. One is you're going to work twice as hard to get them where they need to be. They can't pay you. There's what I find the biggest. What happens, Michelle, is I'll get a call or an email. If you're a tax rep member, we have an Ask Eric where they can just message me directly.
Okay.
Oh, no, because I have to tell you, on average, I get 237 emails a day. So I tell my members, if you don't use that, there's a good chance I'm ignoring you. Because what happens is I'll give a talk, let's say for AICPA, and there are 400 accountants now who listen to that, who all think now we're friends. So now they're emailing me, and so for the most part, I try to respond to people at least briefly, but for the most part, they get ignored. So, but my members have a way so that when I get their message, it's flagged that it's a tax rep member. So anyway, I'll get these messages that say, Eric, I got this new client, but it's $700,000. It's too big for me. And I almost want to reach through the computer and punch them. And I'm like, I'll email back saying, no, this is perfect for you. Why is it too big? Basically, it's the number of zeros. I'm like, who cares? It's the same process, A. B, because they owe so much, it's less likely they can full pay, which means they're a better offer candidate. And 3, they're probably somewhat sophisticated. And I've had some members, we've had a handhold through this because that's what we do. We consult along the way. And tax prep to me is you're not out there hanging by yourself. And what ultimately comes out is, that wasn't that bad. I'm like, no, don't think that because there's an extra zero that now you need a lawyer. Because why? It's the same process. In fact, honestly, the penalty abatement on the $17 million case that I did was the easiest abatement I had to do. Right? You know, it's the biggest in numbers, but who cares? It was a client that was literally making filings in court to try to get a distribution to pay the taxes. I submitted all this to the government saying, our client was trying to get you paid for 2 years. Yeah. The court didn't force the other ones to distribute any of the money. It was locked up. What do you want us to do? And remember, the appeals officer came back and said, this was the fastest turnaround ever. We're abating it's like 15.8 million or whatever it is of penalties. And it was actually the easiest penalty abatement case I've ever had. My folks get hung up about the zeros. So I agree with you. Don't think you need to underscore and be cheap to get. Yeah. Honestly, that will probably be the worst client you'll ever have. They will not necessarily automatically go up. What you'll probably do is do deep work for a couple of years and then end up firing them.
Yeah, they'll fire them, or you're going to have to come up with ways to add more value and services to be able to increase the fee and keep them around. And, you know, I think on tax resolution, that's like a short-lived thing. You know, they're, like you said, it's more transactional. They're in and out. However, I know some of you are also getting into tax planning with them. Maybe you want to help them get their business on track and do their bookkeeping and other things. But again, clients will quickly get used to paying less and expecting that they won't ever have to pay more or full price ever. And that is how you are seen as a commodity. And services of like what each of you offers is heavily relationship dependent, like Eric was saying earlier. So promoting your service and then, you know, only to get to the end and give the discounts or do something for free and do a consult for free, you're just hurting yourself. And you're also hurting the results of the clients that they need. They need to get out of this terrible situation they're in with the IRS. The problem is if you don't help them, they're either going to not do anything, or they might go and get some service like Eric, you were sharing in the beginning of our chat today, where they paid $6,000 and they couldn't even help them, right?
Right.
So those are the two alternatives if your sales process isn't on point. And what they need is certainty. And that's really what this is about. It's not only about the relationship that you have with them and having it heavily weighed on the relationship, but it's also about the certainty they feel that they have when they're making the decision to hire you. And that certainty does not require a discount. It's the worst thing to do. It hurts your conversion rates because when I was telling you about Jack, he had a 100% conversion rate. And he said, it's because I discounted everything. I justified the price just to get them to say yes. And now I'm screwed. So which do you choose, right?
Right. Right. And so listen, for those of you, we have almost a full room now, Michelle, it's a ballroom in Vegas. So I know time is short. What I'd like to do is chat about, so for those of you who are joining us, I think it's going to be a fun-filled 2 days. We have quite the lineup. So for those of you who don't know, on December 13th and 14th, we will be at the Suncoast Hotel and Casino in Vegas live. We are in person. Right now, Vegas does have a mask mandate, but you know, we'll see where we are. I mean, the virus cases, I think, seem to be falling. So we'll see where we are in December. But it's 2 full days on resolving cases. And what the plan is, Roger Nemeth, Bill Nemeth, and I will be spending most of 2 days, and I'm going to put the caveat on that because I'll tell you what Michelle is going to be doing there in a moment. But for the first day and almost a half, a little 3/4, is we're going to be talking about resolving cases, but we're doing it on case studies. It's going to be case-based. So I think, rather than us lecturing at you, this is a roll up your sleeves. How do we resolve a case? And let's go through it. So it's very kind of workshop oriented. And I think it's going to be really interesting for those of you. Like I said, we have a handful, roughly about 13 seats left the room. Michelle is going to be joining us the second half On the second day, the last hour and a half, Michelle is going to be wrapping up. And okay, so we walked, Eric and Roger and Bill have walked you through. Here are the cases. Here's what you have to do. Here's a roadmap. How do you get paid? In other words, how do you make the money doing this? How do you do the ask? How do you justify your fees, which you really don't have to when you can walk? I can tell you, when I can walk people through this, and same with my platinum members, because they're the more advanced, they understand the process. When they can walk the prospective client through it, the prospective client, what they know is, hey, you know what? This guy knows what he's talking about. This makes sense. All right. So the sale happens. What you want to make sure is that you're actually getting paid what you're worth. We do not discount. I learned that lesson the hard way. We do not.
How did you learn? Tell everybody how.
Well, no, Michelle. Listen, well, here's the difference.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but I know we want to hear this story because this story could impact someone listening today. This story could be like, all right, I'm not going to do what Eric did.
Well, no. It's more, I know what Michelle wants me to say, but let me tell you the truth. The truth is I used to do free consults, and I ended up hooking up with two former IRS attorneys. And when he found out I was doing free consults, he's like, what are you doing? So I just would charge $500 and we would do an hour-long phone call. And while on the call, I'd be working this out. And then I meet Michelle, and Michelle is like, wait a minute, time. If you can go back and listen to this, by the way, on the podcast, you don't have to take my word for it. Michelle's like, wait a minute. You're telling them how to solve their case for $500? Yeah, no, you're $1,000 starting today. And if you listen, you'll hear me go, huh? Because I was not expecting that. So I came back and my group was like, ooh, $1,000, that's a lot of money. Let's do $995. And so the next time, I don't remember if you were on mine or I was on yours, but the next podcast, Michelle and I did together, she's like, so I gave you some homework a few months ago. How are we doing? And I said, well, we went to $995. And Michelle said, I think it was a month later. Michelle said, okay, fine, I can live with that. And how have we done? I said, we're 14 for 14. She said, you closed all 14. You're too cheap. Go to 1,500.
Right. And that's what, with Jack, where he had 100% close rate. If you have 100% close rate, your fees are way too low. You're doing that outdated marketing tactic that we spoke about, which is discounting your fees just to get a client to say yes. And that strategy will not get you what you want. So, yeah.
So anyway, listen, as well as I've also upped my hourly fees across the board.
What are they now? What were they and what are they now?
They were before $475. They are now $575.
Okay.
Well, that for me. I mean, again, everyone else in the firm, the staff, everyone also went up because listen, and this is the same thing for raising the 1040s. Your rent goes up. The software goes up. The people that work for you might want to raise. I don't know about you. I like getting raises. Yeah. The cost of everything goes up. If you're charging the same thing you were 2 years ago, something's wrong. All right. So first of all, everything goes up. The clients you don't like, they really go up because either they're going to pay to annoy you or they got to leave. Yeah. And then the ones who are really bad, just fire them. Get rid of them. Honestly, you will be happier and more well-adjusted and sleep better at night knowing you don't have to deal with those people.
Well, and you can't have $1 million tax resolution firm on the basis of outdated marketing tactics, discounting your fees, taking on every person, and having 100% conversion rate. You got a bunch of things not going for you. And I think that's what we were talking about at the beginning. So I would say everyone should, apply to come to Eric's event in Vegas. There's only 12 seats left, and I can't wait to be there.
People want to come see Michelle. No one wants to come see me.
Myself and my team will be there all day Monday and Tuesday. So we will be there the full 2 days. I have a great team. And, if you're willing to pull back the curtain and see what's going on and being sick and tired of, leaving all that money on the table and feeling like you work for free and that you're a nonprofit, and this is the time to come and learn and fix it. So you don't have to deal with it and you don't have to deal with another tax season. Right.
So with that, Michelle, thank you for doing my podcast.
Well, thank you for doing my podcast. And it was so great to do it all at once. I look forward to seeing some of you.
Yes, and we'll see everyone, I'm sure, in Vegas, December 13th and 14th. And with that, Michelle, thank you. And we'll see you in a little over a month.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.